How's it going, comic book fans? Welcome to another episode of Comic Drops, where we take a look at what's popular in comic books this week and discuss what you should be reading. This week saw the drop of Valiant Comics and Alien Books' Poison Pill for Garnering New Fans. You all know what it is. Faith Returns, issue number 2. Look, this book is definitely a comic you should not be reading. I'm pleading with you now, do not support Valiant putting out this type of garbage. Now, of course, I have to read this steaming pile just for you guys, because it's all for the fans in the end. So, does Faith Returns issue number 2 somehow claw its way out of the dumpster to achieve greatness? Or does it continue to lay among the trash heap of other failed Valiant books this year? Spoiler alert. It's a complete dumpster fire. Okay, let's get this over with. First up, how is the story of Faith Returns issue number 2? Well, it's absolutely terrible, and here's why. Well, actually first, I would like to address something. Who at Valiant thought it would be a great idea to use a font for the title of this book that looks eerily like the font used for the cinematic masterpiece Batman Returns? Not only is Faith Returns the absolute antithesis of that film in quality of story, visuals, and, well, everything, the font personality doesn't even fit the character of Faith. Okay, sorry, I had to get that off my chest. After the cesspool that was Faith Returns issue number 1, I didn't think this title could get any worse. But Valiant, you keep proving me wrong. The writing, characters, pacing, and everything else that a good comic should do, Faith Returns just ignores. However, I want to commend Jody Houser on issue number 2. Houser has somehow constructed an even more insufferable comic experience than the first time around. The comic opens with Faith, Archer, and Armstrong. Again, Valiant, why do you have to do that to these guys? Visiting, get this, a cat adoption agency called Mortal Catnip Kitten Kage. I guess this is a Mortal Kombat reference, but it just comes off completely lame. Apparently, one of the Faithless, you know that supervillain group from the previous run that doesn't really do anything super villainy, is here staying at the adoption agency because he's a cat. Yeah, that's right. One of the tasks the great Capshaw has Faith tackling is finding a cat. Oh, Valiant, why do you do this? This lame villain's name is Darkstar, although I wouldn't know that if it wasn't for the info dump inside the front cover of this comic. Everything is so well explained in this series, isn't it? Darkstar sends all the cats at the adoption agency to then attack the heroic trio. If all this doesn't sound stupid enough, to defeat Darkstar, Armstrong just wraps him in a coat and drop kicks him. Kind of like I want to drop kick this comic out of a window right now. So in the matter of a few pages, one of the tyrannical Faithless is taken down, and this is the theme of this issue. Spend a couple of pages finding a member of the Faithless, rinse, and repeat. And next, Faith has to track down Chris Criswell. Yeah, that's really his name. And yes, that's really dumb. This guy is an actor who looks like Archer but has a bunch of clones of himself because, well, just because. And he lives in Iowa. We're not given a town or anything, just that he lives in Iowa. I guess he lives in the whole state. Valiant, you can't really expect us fans to take this book seriously if you keep doing things like this. Faith then gets the bright idea to just follow him home, and all of a sudden we're introduced to his army of stunt doubles who are upset at their boss because he wants them to steal a comic book collection. This somehow leads them all to fighting, and then Gate shows up out of nowhere in Iowa to take them all in. And then we get to the final member of the Faithless. Faith has to find Sydney Pierce, who is a Vine alien disguised as a celebrity, according to the front of the book. So Faith arrives in Malibu seemingly on the same day to apprehend this miscreant. Okay, all right, wait a second. How far from Iowa is Malibu? Let's check. Oh, yeah, it's 1,713 miles. Yeah, this seems legit. Anyways, Faith thinks that tracking down the director of the hit piece documentary about her called Fall from Grace would be a great way to find Sydney, so she shows up at Vincent Enfield's house. And guess what? She's right. Oh, the writing is so lazy here. The valiant alien who disguised herself as Sydney Pierce is now disguising herself as Vincent Enfield. You know, I know there's a joke here or some sort of social commentary to be had, but I'm going to leave that for another video. Then Faith catches Sydney's, or Vincent's, or whatever's confession for Gate agents, who then magically appear again to take the final member of the menacing Faithless away in handcuffs. And now Faith has been redeemed as a character, blah, 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 blah. But wait, there's more! Chris Criswell is still at large. Oh no, what will the Valiant universe do? Well, hopefully Auric will show up, rip him in half, and save us from any more of this intolerable mess. Overall, this story is awful. This is an excellent example of a writer trying to cram as much crap as humanly possible into 27 pages. It makes for an amazingly mind-numbing reading experience. It's lazy writing, and just a collection of disjointed events set in different locations. Like Iowa. It's just bad. It's boring, it's uninteresting, it's Faith. I really don't know what more you want me to say. This character exemplifies everything that is wrong with Valiant right now. More Quantum and Woody? Nope, we have Faith. What about Divinity? Nope, we've got the body positivity SHERO Faith. What about Shadow Man? He's got a game coming out soon. Nah, we just have this girl who floats around a lot and is a social media manager. This is what the kids think is bussin'. This comic is the comic book equivalent of shovelware. Valiant, why do you do this? Why do you do this? All right, let's move on. Now let's discuss the visuals of Faith Returns issue number 2. Although I really don't want to. Okay, so Alita Vidal is back on pencils and colors for this issue of Faith, and well, just like last time, it ain't pretty. The pencils on this issue are all over the place in quality, ranging from bad to completely awful. Not only did this issue remind me of the horrible look given to Armstrong in issue number 1, it also reminded me that this has to be one of the most unintentionally ugly comics I have ever read. I've seen Dollar Tree coloring books with better visuals than this comic book. Characters are drawn in an exaggerated way that is neither visually interesting or consistent throughout the comic. Sometimes Faith is shorter than Archer and Armstrong. Sometimes she's just as tall as they are. Sometimes she has this maniacal, serial killer look in her eyes, and sometimes she's just badly drawn. This is also another example of an artist not wanting to deal with drawing hands, so she just doesn't. It really is like this book is trying to turn off as many fans as possible. Also, the locations and scenery do not look any better. I mean, look at these cars in Iowa. This is laughable at best, completely amateurish at worst. Also, look at the locales that Faith travels to in this issue. The cat adoption agency, Iowa, Malibu and the inside of her apartment are all drawn in such a basic way that you can't help but get coloring book vibes from this entire comic. And none of the locations have any personality, charm, or impact on each scene, to the point where the background for each panel should be just left blank. Not to mention, the action is framed in such a simplistic way that this book is not only a slog to read, but it's a slog to look at. Apart from what the artist might think, medium and establishing shots should not be used in every panel. It's a good thing to mix up the shots used in each panel to visually engage the reader, but Vidal just doesn't have it. Now, Alita Vidal is on colors for this issue as well, and the colors really do complement the pencils nicely. As in, the pencils are terrible, and it is fitting that the colors are terrible as well. Also, the colors are as basic as they come. Vidal only uses maybe 1, and in some cases 2 degrees of highlights and shading while rendering each panel. I will say that this look is consistent throughout the comic, so there's a positive I can throw at Faith Returns number 2. The colors used in each scene and within each location also do not feel different enough to warrant these places feeling unique. Everything seems to just bleed together without any consideration given to how the reader might view this. And again, it makes for a tiring read. The consistency of just how bad everything is on the visual side of this comic just, yet again, makes me ask, Valiant, why? Why are you actively trying to turn away potential newcomers to the Valiant universe? Why would you even greenlight this travesty of a comic? However, I can level one good thing about this book. The trade dress is excellent. It has a cardstock cover, glossy interior pages, and features cover art from Fernando Baldo, who is not Alita Vidal. Okay, finally, let's review my thoughts on Faith Returns issue number 2 from Valiant Comics and Alien Books. So the pros of this comic are, well, the series is over, finally. No more faith in my stack of comics and, yeah, I guess the trade dress. And the cons of this comic book are everything, really. The story is bad, the writing is bad, the art is bad, the pacing is bad, the villains are bad, the heroes are bad, everything is bad. I mean, this issue is so bad that I question again why Valiant would even release it. Better yet, I'll ask you again, Valiant, why do you keep pushing this character? I've seen the leftover stock of Faith issues at numerous comic book stores. There is no way that this comic is selling well. It never has, so why are you so devoted to this character? Valiant, if you're watching this, it's time to dump Faith. It's been fun, not really, and we all know what you originally tried to do with Faith, but she's not a strong enough character from a story perspective or from a physical perspective to headline her own series, let alone have any real impact on the Valiant universe as a whole. Faith is a joke of a character, and no one is laughing, and the punchline is fell flat on its face. You can do better, Valiant, and we as the fans expect better. Phew. Okay, there. It's over. We've made it. Hopefully none of your eyes have rolled so far back into your eye sockets that you're now staring at your brain. This is the single worst issue of a Valiant comic I have ever seen or ever read. Before you go, let me know what you think in the comments about Faith Returns issue number 2. And keep the hope alive, guys, because next week we have Bloodshot Unleashed Reloaded issue number 4, Ninjak vs. Roku issue number 1, and Rai, the Book of the Dark number 2, all dropping at the same time. See you soon.